So that, damn it, I missed one. I missed an alert. That's fine. Good morning. Or good, no, it's good evening. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'll edit this out. Don't worry. It's fine. This is podcast time. This is now episode 2 of the Runaround. I am live tonight on Twitch with our friend CoelRunnings, also known as Joe. We know him in our hearts as Joe. So we're going to flip over, talk to Joe, just kind of hang out. So there'll be a cool intro inserted here. And now we're going to switch over. There we go. Hey, Joe.
Oh, hey, Dan.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for that resub.
Hey.
You helped me find the one alert I didn't turn on.
Oh.
How you doing?
I'm here to help recognize the gap. I'm good.
Good.
I'm gonna just real quick.
Oh,
Yeah, right there.
I'm gonna do this. Mine is
Oh.
just Waterloo, a little black cherry Waterloo.
Yeah, we gotta, because I'm in Michigan, we gotta do the Vernors,
Oh,
but
nice.
Vernors zero sugar because I am now a shill for big aspartame.
I dig it.
Yeah.
What am I? 47 days sober now? 48?
Hell yeah.
I don't know where I am. Well, actually, I bring that up before we get going into the warm up. Like, you were the reason we had that talk that weekend. That was like 48, 49 days ago, and here we are. So thanks.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, hey, I mean, not to jump right into it, but I was really proud to, one, that you were willing to kind of let me in on that feeling and conversation, and two, that you kind of took it to heart. Like, that means a lot.
Yeah, I'm grateful. So it's one of the reasons I moved us up, because I feel like we've kind of connected, bonded over running and fitness. And I had to wear the running suck shirt, not just because of the boot, although I am airing out the leg and no boots. Folks, since last podcast episode, I was diagnosed with a stress fracture in my 5th metatarsal, so I'm in a boot for, it should be hopefully 8 weeks. We'll get into more of that discussion later, but the boot is off right now since I'm just kind of sitting here. So,
yeah, I mean, appropriate question. Do it stank though?
I showered. I'm keeping the boot clean. The thing comes apart so I can wash it, and they gave me an extra thing. So far, it's not like my post-run slippers, my Merrells that I wear, and those can walk to the car by themselves. So the boot is not quite there yet.
They have a nice little microculture.
Yeah, they do. They squeak if I put them on. No. Ugh, I just grossed myself out. Everything's fine. Well, everyone, we're going to start off with what we like to call here on the Runaround, the warm-up. And Joe, what that is, it's kind of this. I'm excited for this because you have your spiel that you go into when people raid is mint. It's perfect, and I love it. So Joe does stream on Twitch. We'll put the links in with the Discord as well, but I'll put this in with the podcast. But we're gonna put it up there. A little shout out there for Joe. But Joe, I want you to take a minute or two, kind of warm up the crowd. Tell us about yourself, how long you've been lifting, an athlete, your streaming story. Kind of free reign, kind of a thing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can run the intro first and then kind of go from there.
Sure.
Hi everyone. My name is Joe. I go by CoelRunnings here on Twitch. I use he, him pronouns. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays we lift weights. Tuesdays and Sundays in the past and probably in the future, we play video games. And all the time, we are an inclusive community, all about getting moving in the ways that work for you and enjoying rad stories together. And that's we've had some changes recently because things got a little bit overwhelming when I did my recent bodybuilding contest prep, but we're gonna get back to doing some games eventually. But just how long have I been an athlete and lifting? I think that I've been somewhat athletically inclined or involved for as long as I can really remember. I remember the very first 5K that I ran and all of the vomiting that I wanted to do during that experience. That was like, that was one of those required ones just in like grade school.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just have this visceral memory of it, of one of my classmates actually. Her name's Colleen. I don't talk to her anymore, but went through like high school and everything with her. I remember the moment that I was like walking and like panting, and she was like, "You got it, Joe. Like you could do it." And and it was like what? Like I don't know. I think I said fifth grade. Like
Okay.
the fact that some kid had the wherewithal to do that, I think, it kind of encapsulates a little bit of what I hope to give in running spaces. But did sports in high school, did football, wrestling, and track, and then switched off of football and did cross country my final year because of a lot of reasons that I won't go into. But and then like went into college, thought that I was hot shit, and like all freshmen do when they go into undergrad. And then I had things really figured out, and eventually 25 pounds and a lot of depression and other symptoms, like not doing well in school later. I realized that I really needed to turn things around. So I went on a little bit of a weight loss journey that, looking back wasn't super duper healthy, but in that time I did build a lot of familiarity with lifting and like what it meant to like try to run from ground zero or from a base of zero. And from there, I think it just kind of slowly escalated to where I was trying to do, a couple miles every week. And then at one point, I was doing this service activity at work with a coworker of mine who was running the Dexter Ann Arbor Marathon, or the Dexter Ann Arbor Half Marathon,
Okay.
which is one of the local races that gets really big, and all the local running clubs are pretty well involved with it. And I had done like 6 mile runs at that point, and she's like, "I can't make it. Do you want this registration?" And I was just like, "Sure, yeah, I'll I'll do it. I'll give it a go." And that really did just kind of bring me into distance running in a sense. Like,
Okay.
I'm looking ahead on the.
Oh,
I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry,
that's
Dan.
fine. Do it. Do it. It's fine.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so that's kind of the running thing. To tell
Okay.
my streaming story a little bit, I was pre-COVID. I had always been kind of curious about live streaming, and
Okay.
used to watch a lot of like YouTube game people.
Hmm.
I could name some, but a lot of the ones that I watched like ended up doing like weirdly problematic stuff at some point. So
Gotcha.
I just
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Um, but yeah, I was always curious about it. And one day in like 2019, I picked up my laptop and I set up my Twitch account. I pulled up Spelunky and like set up yeah, yeah, set up just like a weird little microphone and like this terrible camera angle, and tried streaming and was like, that didn't feel good. Um, let's try a different setup. Let's try it again. And then I went into doing some of the Metro games and played through the
Okay.
Metro series. And that was like the first thing that I streamed. But
Okay.
that I like bought myself one of those giant Yeti microphones that always sounds like you're shouting into a giant room. And sorry, I feel like I'm getting way too granular right now.
No, dude, dude, like I can relate to this. Like it's just hitting. Yeah, I think all streamers kind of go through this process, right? Like we get the Yeti, and then we try stuff, and then yeah, yeah. So no, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But then like at one point we were in this, COVID is happening, and we were in this tiny-ish apartment, and my wife and I were, doing all the things that like COVID couples do. I mean, we
Hmm.
we were gonna get married 6 days before COVID hit and everything
Oh,
got locked down. And so we had to we had to postpone our wedding, but um, through that summer, we were just trying to find different outlets to kind of keep ourselves healthy and keep moving, and home workouts and all that. So I started
yeah,
trying to do home workouts on Twitch,
nice.
and that very slowly evolved into what it is now. But that's more of a longer progression. So yeah,
Okay,
I guess that's kind of my streaming story, and I
all right.
just I've been really trying to keep an inclusive community. I mean, my stream team, Cosmic Hearts, that I'm affiliated with now and
Hmm.
have been for a couple of years, they've done some incredible work in fundraising, and that was something that was really important to me too, was
Hmm.
being able to like contribute to someone else's well-being while I was kind of doing this thing that is very much focused on me.
Nice, nice. I that hits home for us. I think I just hit 7 years of streaming. 4 on Twitch this week actually, which is bonkers. Like I used to be over on the Mixer,
I was gonna
and
say
that
it used to be on Mixer, right?
yeah, I went like I started homebrewing and I literally had an old laptop from work still, and it was one webcam. Then I added a second one, and like you could literally hear the laptop just it wanted to die.
Squealing in the background.
Oh, then we got like a streaming laptop and added more cameras, and like I actually got partnered just home brewing. I did just beer brewing,
Yeah.
and I tried to run in 2018, but I didn't stream it. I tried a couple run streams like with my phone on a gimbal, and I was like, this is ridiculous, and was
Hmm.
told to stop. And then 2020, when the pandemic happened, I had known like from fall 2018 when Kelly got diagnosed, I had to lose weight, and I kind of set a quiet goal to do a marathon. And I was like, yeah, maybe we'll stream some runs or try to figure that out. And then when the pandemic hit, we did more running, and then by then I was doing some games and stuff too. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I get the pandemic stuff, and trying to find way like an outlet. Um, yeah, and I think you and I found like I think you resubbed on Twitch here 20 months, so it's been over a year and a half then, right? For since we've
Yeah.
known each other, I think.
Yeah, I guess it has. It has been over a year and a
Yeah,
half.
yeah.
I was trying to think of how I found you. I
I
think
think.
it was, I think you were running and someone, or I was just either browsing or someone,
Mhm.
like brought me over on an early morning raid or something like that. But, um,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
I think then through one of those like I think Joe workouts, I think somebody rated you as well. So like it
Mm-hmm.
was one of those, and then well we've been hanging out kind of ever since. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that does, I think, we talk pretty, we talk a lot in fitness, like health and fitness on Twitch, just how
Mhm.
much that community can get connected and,
Yeah.
when everyone's really supportive of each other. I mean, I think 70% of the viewership sometimes is other fitness streamers.
Yes.
But like that's just part of the support that we
Yeah.
provide for each other and how we've connected and gotten closer. So,
Yeah, like
I appreciate it.
I've met like Celtsy and like all the
Hmm.
folks, right? We could name drop all these people. They're all on my guest list too. Like I have a list. We literally the mods and I have a list in Discord, a channel where we have I want to say it's 40 names. People that I'm like
Damn.
I want to talk to, and yeah.
Damn.
So, but that yeah, the fitness and health category is super supportive, and I love it. And what I like is that it's kind of like your channel and kind of how we geared my channel toward after the time that whatever you want to call that year,
The
but try to
great
be
darkness.
inclusive as well. The darkness, the dark ages. I don't know. I don't want to throw shade, but it was weird. Anyway, that's what I like about fitness as help is everybody is kind of inclusive, and I find by extension, like in real life, the running community, at least here in Chicago, and I would assume because you're Midwest as well, that it's very inclusive locally too. There for slower runners, it's a little harder depending on the run group. I guess where you go, like even in Chicago, if you go downtown to the lakefront and run with them,
Mhm.
they don't like slow folks so much, and they don't
No.
have a lot of slow folks. But I've been lucky to find a group, and I've known since 2011, I think, that
Yeah.
they let slow folks run with them too.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be those pockets, right? And
Right.
I've run with quite a few different clubs in my area, and I can
Hmm.
remember very specifically what the vibe was, right? Like there are groups that say they're pace inclusive, and
Hmm.
we'll just kind of like leave folks in the dust anyway, right?
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
there are folks that say that they are pace inclusive, and they will always have someone who is trailing along behind, making sure folks don't get lost, that actually have multiple runners who are kind of at those slower paces and
Hmm.
like really do an intentional job of like being kind and welcoming. But I totally feel that because even when I was like, I was running with a group that was pretty quick and
Hmm.
to where I was running like a 7:30 to 8 minute tempo run
Wow.
some nights. Um,
Wow.
I would still have like these feelings that I would get from some of these people that were regular Boston qualifiers.
Hmm.
They'd be like, ah, I got out yesterday just for a little shakeout. I was feeling pretty slow. I only pulled a 6:45 mile for like 8 miles, and it's like, okay, listen, buddy, you can go heck off. Uh,
Yes.
like you can say that to me, like I'm fine, but if you say that to someone else who's like a little less feeling great about their paces right now, like
Hmm.
you're gonna put people in a really bad place. And I
Yeah.
wish that more of the like near elite, and I'm saying that very careful, running community would consider
Yeah.
that more. Like consider your experience when you're running on a lake shore and just like I don't know, like like peeps are getting out there doing their best. Like
Yeah.
why do we gotta be wads about it?
That's so we were talking before we went live about threads, and I've met
Mhm.
some like we interviewed. You can see the hat behind. Nope, you can't. I'm blocking it. But Run Try Bike, Jason from Run Try Bike magazine. They are all about like I think they would consider you and I like everyday athletes. Like we work full time. We have family. We have outside commitments, and we're trying to balance all of that with training, with running, and through Jason, I've met a lot of people. Like there's one person, she calls herself the fat athlete, and she's a heavier person, and she's like, a mile's a mile. If it takes me 16 minutes versus your 7, it's still a mile. It still
Still a
counts.
mile. Yeah.
And so like I've found that inclusivity on Instagram and Threads, and it's been refreshing because for a while it gets hard. Like being a slower guy, like I'm older, I am heavier, I've yo-yoed, and it's hard to get that inclusion because like a lot of times I still get heckled. People will slow down their car, like, "Hey, wouldn't you lose some weight?" Like I'm literally out here running,
Doing the thing.
doing that literal thing. Like, thanks. So,
Thank you for the very helpful feedback.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. You have a great
Thank you
day, and
so much. You have a great day.
you're
You
trucking.
have a great day. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trucking your truck nuts there. Thanks. Bye.
I knew there were going to be truck nuts involved.
There always
Somehow.
are. There always are, right? Like, um, well, so you kind of touched on your first race, right? Like your first marathon.
Mhm.
The longest you've run is a marathon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that first one was my first half. My first
Okay.
marathon was Detroit, and that was a
Okay.
little bit of a different preparation scheme.
Yeah. Tends to you need a little more.
Yeah. That was less like, oh, 7 weeks till this is happening. Like, yeah, I
Right.
guess I can get ready for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was running with a club at that time, and
Okay.
honestly, I hadn't considered that I would ever sign up for a full. And I would say that when I was in the club workouts and we were just, running
Yeah.
along, like it was very much the kind of club where you do your tempo on Tuesday nights, and
Hmm.
then we would all go to the same bar that had like $2 tacos and
Yeah.
$3 beers, and so you know. I would be ordering like 4 to 5 tacos and having a big old beer. Sorry, I know what the sobriety is. Maybe not chill to
No,
talk about
no,
but
it's all good. Like,
um,
cause I can. I mean, I've done beer miles, and those are bad. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we can delve into that stuff. It's okay.
yeah. But yeah, and like I had been fully committed to the idea that I couldn't do it. That just like my body wasn't built for it. That I didn't have the frame for it.
Hmm.
Whatever framing I had put it in my head, and having multiple people that I was running with, when I would say those things, just being like, you could, like, if you, like, you might have to slow down, you might have to change your training up a little bit. It may take you some time, but, if you sign up, you'll surprise yourself and you'll feel extremely proud when you finish it. And so, having those folks do that and eventually feeling like I could sign up for Detroit, doing the international marathon where you run across this big ass bridge and then there's just people over in Canada that are cheering and waiting, getting to take a leak in a Canadian porta potty and then running back into the US. Like, absolutely. It was
That's awesome.
beautiful.
That that race, that's one of my bucket list races is Detroit. Like I would love to. Like I know I make fun of Detroit. You and I we've talked about this. I
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm from Chicago. Like
Oh,
it's meant in
rivalry.
fun. But like Detroit is one of my because you cross the border, and I of course would do the same thing. I did that at Chicago. There was a year around halfway they opened a Target up literally on the course, and I was like, I have to go in order Starbucks and pee. Like I have to. And this is before mobile ordering, so I ran in and they had just they gave me the coffee for like you're racing. I'm like I know, but I just wanted a coffee and come say hi. And then so like
I gotta wonder how many people did it, you know?
Oh, it's
Like,
had to be a bunch because yeah,
like why not? Like why not stop and grab a little cup of Joe or
exactly.
yeah.
Little tea, little refresher. Like, well, it's like the people like this isn't on the list, but we're gonna go into it. Like, speaking of races, I love creative signs.
Hmm.
And I feel like you and I, we do some dad jokes. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes, like I ended your stream once with the one. I can't remember which one it was now, but you were like, that's it. I got to go. Like I felt bad.
That's
I was
it.
like,
Yep, we're
it was
done.
funny, but like there was a guy. Why do I bother? Who's one of my mods? We ran Chicago together in 2021, and we ran through. It's called Boys Town. It's the LGBTQIA plus community, and a guy had, I like your stamina. Call me. So we called
Oh.
because his number was on the sign, and he's like, "Who is this?" Like, we just passed you. We turned around and waved. And he's like, "Oh my god, I didn't think anyone would call." It's like you're gonna sit there and dare 40,000 crazy people doing this distance to
And
not
then
call.
be surprised
Yeah,
when you get a
yeah.
phone call.
So it was hilarious.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've always really enjoyed. I try so hard to like put on a good like smiley face when we
Hmm.
actually hit spectator zones in races, um, and just be like thanking people, like,
Yeah,
especially at aid stations and everything. Like, I get it if you're tired and you're really struggling, like you hit the wall and everything. That maybe you're not going to be like, oh, thank you so much for this blessed hydration. I really appreciate your presence here on the course today. But like I don't know, dropping a quick thank you. And when
yep,
little kids are out there holding up targets and like power up signs,
dude.
not the most inventive thing at this point, but like it is it's amazing
Yeah,
if you can give them that little boost for coming out and supporting people. I just love that.
I one of my so my fastest marathon was Austin. This is back. Penny was it was 2012, so she was three, two and a half, three. And there was a hill. Like, okay, it's basically that marathon. I made the mistake of signing up for it before watching the course video, and then
Mm-hmm.
I remembered the kid's mom coming out and my face, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I'm watching the course video." She's like, "And?" I'm like, "It's really hilly." She's like, "Perhaps you should have watched that before you signed up." I'm like, that would have been nice like yesterday before I signed up, but now.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically uphill from mile 8 to 21, I think. Like overall, it's uphill.
Sorry,
And
what race is this?
The Austin, Texas
Austin.
Marathon.
I
Yeah,
would not expect that to be anything but flat. So that's
I it
wild
was
to me.
scary. That's what I thought too. And then like we drove the course the day before, and my dad had bets. I was like, we're like, this is the hill that Dan's gonna swear about hills, and my dad was one hill off. Like, but like I remember at mile 18 ish, 19 ish, they my ex and the kids, my stepmom were at the base of a hill, and Penny at 3 was running up the hill, go 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 go, and like running up the hill, coming back down.
Oh,
And her mom's like, I don't know, is that good or okay? I'm like, no, it's amazing. Like everyone else is smiling, it's good. So yeah, kids participating at a race, like yeah, you gotta. It's hard sometimes because right, like we're running 26 miles, but yeah, when the kids are out handing out like orange slices or they've got the power up sign, you gotta like go and give them high fives.
you gotta get with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like if a little kid walks up to you with an empty plastic teacup and says it's tea time, you're
you're
darn well
having tea.
you're having tea, buddy.
Yep,
You're gonna be sipping with that pinky out and
yep, yep.
taking biscuits off a little platter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if you wear a tutu, you wear a tutu. You do whatever the kids say. So
Exactly.
yeah,
They're the boss.
they are. They run the show. Yeah, Penny is like I think I have a Star Destroyer Lego set, and they were playing with little My Little Ponies, and we'd just shown them Star Wars, and so I flew in. I had the Imperial March playing on my phone. The Star Destroyer came in, landed, opened it up. Darth Vader got out, grabbed a pony, went back in, took off, and left. And both kids just like oh my god, like they lost it.
Oh, crossing streams.
A little bit. Um, back to racing. So you were one of the fasties. Like again, this is all like I say this with don't want to say a grain of salt, but like you touched on this earlier. Like my friend Bethy, her slow is my fast pace right now. Like she's like, I had to go. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Like, this is not meant as an insult, but you were like a quick marathoner, and your PR race, was that your best race? Is it your best race because you PR'd, or is there another race that's your best?
I don't know. That's really hard. So I've done 5 marathons,
Okay.
and I would say my two best were definitely tied for like the one that's the PR, and then the
Hmm.
one that was most recent that I feel like I just had the best training for.
Okay.
Um, so my PR was the Twin Cities Marathon, and I can't remember what year it was, but that was either my second or third It was my third marathon, and by
Okay.
then, like you've gotten familiar with the feeling of things. Like I was in a
Yeah.
strange city, but um, I was also like with some of my best friends that had hosted us for the weekend, and it became
Nice.
like both parts about like the race, but also just like getting to see each other and
Yeah.
and getting to just like be in a really loving space for a couple of days. But Twin Cities, I would recommend that race to anyone. I
Okay.
mean, it was, I think, 40 degrees and sunny that morning. And
That's
so, like,
beautiful.
at the start, yeah, I stripped off all my layers and I was a little bit chilly at the start. But the moment I took off and basically kept a negative split the entire time, and landed sub 3:30, like,
Oh,
that
nice.
was my goal for the day. And I just, yeah, everything about it, like the spectators, the weather,
That's
the
awesome.
course, it was all just gorgeous.
That's
And
awesome.
I look back so fondly on that weekend. My friend Megan, who was my best man, I think lead co-conspirator was what we used as the title in the wedding, but she and her partner hosted us for the weekend, and
Okay.
afterwards, like I was just dead, and it wasn't even like a problem, right? Like we just sat there together and chilled out and had some food.
I love it.
Um, but other best race would have definitely been the Grand Rapids Marathon.
Okay.
I have some connections to that city, and uh, you know, it kind of stank. It was a little bit of a stinky marathon because there are some parts where you run by the river and by like processing plants
Ooh.
and all that. But
Okay.
um, that marathon training season was the one where I really learned the value of like truly running slow when I needed to run
Mm.
slow.
Yeah.
And I did a 3 week taper, and I have never felt healthier coming into a marathon than I
That's
did
awesome.
during that one. I wasn't trying to PR, I wasn't expecting to PR, I just wanted to finish. And um, yeah, it was just a really, really fun weekend and a really fun training cycle. So yeah, I guess
Nice.
like two best races for two different reasons.
I like it. I like it. I don't think my fastest was my third, which is Austin as well. And like my dad and I joked because the first two times I did Chicago, it was in the 90s. And the second time I fainted, I fell twice. I fell like a quarter mile in, like you cross the Chicago River, and they've got like steel grate like bridges,
Yeah.
and then they
You
put
tripped over one of
carpet.
those?
No, they put carpet on it, and I tripped on the carpet. And we were in the middle, like you're in the middle, we're like middle corral of like 45,000 runners, and I don't know how I did it, but apparently I rolled through it and got back up. And the guy I was with was like, "Oh, oh, oh, you're up." I'm like,
You're up.
he's
Oh,
like, "That
good.
was amazing." I'm like, "I don't think I could do that if I tried."
No,
Like,
that runner's roll, like when you have those falls, like
yeah,
it takes over. Yeah.
yeah. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, that one I ended up in like the med tent, like at mile 8. I ended up walking basically the rest of it. Like I remember
Oh,
seeing my dad at like 15. He's like, "You're gonna finish." I'm like, he's like, he'd then taken up. My dad should be the iPad public transit like commercial because he had someone every 2 miles on that course in Chicago. And I remember the woman who inspired me to run. I met her at mile 21, got a hug, and she walked me to like 23, 24, and met my ex father in law. And then that was where the lady, she gives out Jello shots every Chicago marathon at like mile
yo,
23 and a half. And I had my shirt out, and I was just like, and
fucking
my ex father was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "It's been a long day. Here, Jello shot time." And like, so like that one was, it was brutal, but a lot of memories. And yeah, like but yeah, the fastest was Austin, and my dad and I joked like I had to go to Texas for a cold weather marathon.
hmm
So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's rad that that one was the one. I mean, with all those hills, that was the one that you PR'd on. That's
That's
incredible.
yeah. I was with my coach, Coach Jen, who
Mhm.
we went out. She's like, I want you to pick a month, like after Chicago, that the 2011 one. She's like, I want you to take a week, 2 weeks. Don't talk to me. When you're ready, come back. Let's talk. And then we picked a mantra. It was redemption. Like that was my
Mhm.
race shirt. It was this hashtag redemption.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I ran like here. We don't have a lot of hills here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like there are parts of like the Midwest where you can get some hills, but like here I had to drive like 45 minutes, and there's it's called Waterfall Glen. It's like a 10-mile loop. It's crushed stone. It's around like Argonne National Laboratories. They have albino deer, and I don't know if it's because it's nature or
Ooh.
because of radiation, but
Okay. All
it's
right.
it it's pretty
Handsome
hilly.
boys.
Yeah, yeah. But I ran that like that all winter, and like I was just off on my own training. I didn't like I backed out of the run group and just we were worried about weather, so she had me running in a gym. I was working with a strength training person, and we'd be in the gym. She would crank the heat up to get it hot, and I would run on the treadmill, and it was just brutal. And I do hill workouts, and just like it was the hardest I worked for that. I wanted to rebound, and I think I got like a 45-minute PR. It was
You
ridiculous.
did? Yeah, that's
So
man, that's incredible.
like it was fun. That was also one where we found, I think it was an early version of like Map My Run where you could live track your run
Yep,
because
I remember
uh,
that.
we tested it, and my dad called laughing because I turned it on and the kids ran around the house, and I have to find the picture, but I'll insert it here. But you zoom in the house we were staying at, and it looked like someone just took a marker and just so. But I had that on for that race, and then I stopped and waited for my dad. I forgot to turn it off, so then friends went from like, "Hey, good job," to "Are you okay? You okay?"
You all
It's
right?
been yes,
Everything
I didn't
everything
move for
good?
like 20 minutes. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." Beep. Sorry. So yeah, yeah, good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so you've said your favorite race, and should we talk about? This is going to be a bigger conversation because we are both signed up for next race
Uh-huh.
for a race together. But with
Yeah.
my foot and you coming off your bodybuilding competition, we've kind of talked
Mhm.
about maybe changing up our goals a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, so the next race that I have is Holland Haven in September.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the one that we were planning on taking on together.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said from the start, because knowing that the competition,
Right.
for anyone who, I guess we should probably like frame that up.
We should. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, almost 3 weeks ago today, I did my first bodybuilding competition. I dieted down for 20 weeks. I ran 15 of those 20 weeks, and then in the last 5 weeks, my coaches advised me to stop running. And I had set kind of this plan to reverse back out of the dieting period for what was it was a natural bodybuilding show. So I should say that too, that I don't do performance enhancing drugs. And
Okay.
when you don't do performance enhancing drugs, that turnaround can be just really key in making sure that you got to be careful with your nutrition. You got to be making sure you're getting enough protein, enough sleep, all that stuff. A lot of things that can be mitigated by just like slamming gear. Can't when you're natty. So
Yes.
um, I started slowly ramping up my miles and adding in more food, and like I'm feeling okay, but I do have this like kind of nagging glute injury that
Mm-hmm.
has sort of started up during contest prep. That you know if anyone has never trained for a marathon that's listening to this, my timeline is essentially, and it's not starting from zero, but it's 12 weeks ramping up from no long runs to a marathon, and that is 4 weeks too short
Yeah.
in most considerations. So like my plan was to get up to about 18 miles as my longest run, and then taper down from there. Maybe do it for a second week if I'm feeling good. But
Mm-hmm.
the thought that I had, like especially when you got hurt, was like,
Yeah.
is there a reason that we have to do a full marathon in September? Like could
Right.
we, if we still want to do a full, can we push it back another month and see about, is there another really cool race that's kind of in the area that be a little
Yeah.
cold, be a little nippy, but is that possible for us? So I don't know how you've been feeling about it lately.
I haven't broached it with Coach. Today we talked about, well, we talked offline. I mentioned to you, she and I were talking. I was like, she's like, do you have somebody you could work with? I'm like, I might actually. She's like, well, let me know if you ask him. I'm like, kind of already did, Coach, today. So, but we haven't broached that subject. But she's been like the one, like, yeah, we don't, you can still do this, potentially depending on like MRI results and stuff. And like, we bought a bike, right? And the math to me, like, my worry is like in theory, let's say it's 8 weeks, right? This boot comes
Hmm.
off like literally the day before day K and I go to see Green Day at Wrigley Field, like mid-August.
Hmm.
That's less than a month to ramp up.
Yeah.
That like yeah, I don't want to make this permanent. Like I've already kind of decided that I'm going to defer the 50K. Now, I guess I could. The reason I picked that marathon is that fit the Holland Haven Marathon fit into my training plan. And like for a 50K when you're running,
Hmm.
for those that have never run a marathon, the longest run you typically do for a marathon is 20 or 22 miles, and that's about a month ish before race day. For a 50K, the longest you do is about it's a marathon. It's basically a marathon. I was like, it'd be kind of neat to do a marathon and then kind of keep going into taper into the 50K. But like I
Hmm.
think at this point the 50K is off the table.
Yeah.
It's the same weekend in Chicago. It's 2 months. So like I would even be fine of us picking a fun fall half to do, and then
Hmm.
maybe I do a full in the spring, like train over the winter.
Hmm.
Having the bike means that I can get a trainer and bike inside. So because I fall a lot and I
Yeah.
trip, I don't need to run in the ice. So if it's icy or snowy, I can just bike. I can trade
Yeah.
off the cardio here and there and not do it for just solely 8 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, so like I think being okay with adjusting goals is important, and I was resigned to the fact I probably wasn't going to be doing either of those races, the full or the 50K this fall. And I've been nervous about you doing the full so close. Like I think I've actually went during one of your live streams a while back. I'm like, I feel bad because I kind of peer pressured a little bit, like as much as you can with runners. Like
Well,
runners,
no, I mean,
runners kind of like I'm gonna run it. You told me to remind you. Here we like we do that.
yeah.
Like we kind of run friends kind of do that. We make bad decisions together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and like there's it's the send it mentality, right?
Yeah.
It's I can train for that. I think it's this combination of what you're saying a little bit of like that mutual goading of like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can, come on, let's get
Hmm.
signed up. Let's do the thing. And then also just this potentially much healthier uh perspective that I think we both share of like it's going to look like what it's going to look like, right?
Yeah.
It's if I'm signing up for a half marathon or I'm signing up for a marathon, 10K, 5K, whatever,
Hmm.
you know, I don't need to do that with the sole expectation that I'm going to prepare in an optimal way and get out there and run my fastest race just because I'm signed up for something. It's,
Right.
like for me, I really needed to get something on the calendar, and this kind of goes back into the post bodybuilding stuff that
Yeah.
if I didn't have something to focus on athletically after I finished that show,
Hmm.
uh, my post show blues as they call it would have been so much worse because I wouldn't have had a target, and it would have been like
Yeah.
I'm recovering, but what am I recovering for? So like I'll say thank you for talking about the race and like yeah, like the timing is a little tight, but it's also just it's a fun challenge. It's a fun puzzle for me as someone who
Yeah.
I think takes a little bit of pride in like how can I do both of these things that I enjoy and also stay healthy while I'm doing it.
It's one of the things that I admire about you is that you are able to handle your streams, which are a lot of times workouts and home life and work and like being able to balance that and then training. It's pretty friggin' admirable, and I just hats off to you, and
Thanks, dude.
it's a lot. Like having done it, like not to the I don't want to say I'm not trying not to degrade myself. I'm just saying like we both have done it. We both kind of manage all of this stuff, and it's not easy to do. And like
No.
I tapped out, and that's why I reached out to Coach Jen. I was like, I need someone, or I need people that I'm a person that if you tell me what to go do, you tell me to go run up the hill, I'm gonna go run up the hill. You tell me to go up and run,
Hmm.
like if I have to plan it too, that's just more that I'm like,
Yeah,
eh.
yeah. I mean, shout out to big shout out to Sweet Lou and
Yes.
Acro and Aya who helped me with all of my show prep because
Yeah.
if I was trying to just do all the actual planning for my lifts during that time, like
Hmm.
I don't know, I would have been. It really is like even if you know exactly what you're doing, there's still this mental load of trying to figure out like
Hmm.
how am I going to do it every day? What am I going to squeeze in? And
Well, and
um,
getting that feedback from them too, like it's similar like coach and I like, you can they see how you do, you can report back, and then you have that a genuine conversation on how to improve, ways to improve. And it's not like, you know, a lot of times people think coaching it's like the old guy from Rocky, Burgess Meredith, like he's just yelling at you, right? And it doesn't have to be. It can be coaching can come from a compassionate side. Like Coach Jen has shifted from being hardcore, and I used to hear Pantera in my head, like the Pantera song from specifically SpongeBob, where Sandy wanted to do everything extreme. Like that is what I would hear in my head with Coach. Now she's mellowed and she's more, I don't want to say motherly, but kind of motherly. Like she's more compassionate with it, and it's more holistic, I think, with training.
mhm.
And I think, having that, like you having that support system helps a lot. And like I think we're both able to ask for help when we need it. And tying back into the races, I am all for us pulling back. And if it's the half at Holland Haven, that's still pretty freaking cool. I feel like I could ramp up, you know, to a 10 miler before. I
Mhm.
might not get a whole taper, but like I just did a half and I did a 10 miler before I got hurt. And
Mhm.
so a half maybe then, and then yeah, we could look at a full, like the race I'm doing, the 50K, they have a half and they have a full there. So,
Mhm.
it just
Yeah, we
depends.
can.
And
We'll hash it out. We'll
yeah,
find some options and
yeah,
we'll shop around a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Like I
Yeah,
think we got some opportunities, and then yeah, like I can always come back next year and see what happens. Like
yeah,
I am the same way. I'm already kind of looking at next year because I know that whatever I get to do this year, I'm going to be lucky and I'm going to be happy. And some people say blessed, some people say lucky. The fact I'm able to move at all, despite everything, I think is going to be great, which I think is the focus. Like getting
yeah.
past this, I'll get past it. Like I'm not as down. Like I gave myself a few days to be sad and mad,
Mhm.
and like today, tomorrow, because of the MRI results, sad, mad, but we're gonna get back to work then. Like coach is like, all right, back to working. And also I have to say, because I see the person kind of watching the Twitch chat right now, they're the person that as soon as I bought the bike was texting like, now you can do triathlons. I'm like, let's just get back to running first. And then Coach Jen did the same thing. And I was like, so I told that model, I'm like, this is your fault that now Coach Jen is doing this.
I mean,
So,
hey, those
like,
sprint triathlons can be really fun. If you can get used to the open water swimming, I hear that's the hardest thing. And then after that, like if you're less afraid of open water swimming, all the biking and running just becomes because
right.
if running is comfortable for you, some people are just not comfortable, like they hate running, and so
Yeah.
the tries are less fun for them for that reason. But
I went,
yeah,
I got into marathoning and running, because of a guy named Dave. He was my mentor in my first couple marathons, and he had done triathlons, and he took me swimming one time in a pool, and he just stood there and he would elbow me and punch me and kick me as I went past him. I'm like, and I stopped. I'm like, what the frig are you doing? He's like, getting you ready for open water swims. I'm
this is
like,
what it's like in the open water. It's
and
like
I'm like, I'm not doing that.
get
No.
out of
And
here,
I got out of the pool. I'm like, no.
get out of here. No, what?
I'm like, no. So coach is like, I can teach you to swim. I'm like, if you punch me one time, coach, I'm done.
I'm telling.
Yeah, I'm telling
I'm not.
Kelly.
Yeah,
Oh, Kelly was like, I like where coach is going with this. I'm like, it's like everyone needs to relax a little bit.
yeah. Back it off.
Just- yeah.
Run first.
Um. So I want to. One of the things I wanted to ask. I want to make sure we get to. I'm looking for it on our list here. Sorry, guys. We have like an actual agenda. Like I got like an outline of stuff.
And I blew it up.
This fine. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
something that I want to talk about. We've talked about. All right. So mental toughness. I want to talk about. Like, you talk about that, like you for those that don't know, that don't watch Joe on Twitch, you should. We'll share his link. I'm going to shout it out in Twitch chat now, but we'll tie it. But Joe does a thing called wellness minutes, and it ranges. I don't want to steal your thunder, and if I misspeak on in this, let me know. But wellness minutes are on a varying number of topics. Could be nutrition, could be lifting, could be running, could be mental toughness. And I feel like sometimes you're in my head. I feel like sometimes with the
I've had a couple of those moments. Yeah.
there've been a few, and they've been like on mental toughness specifically. So,
Uh-huh.
what are your thoughts on mental toughness? I guess let's open up that here as we're kind of getting toward the end. But I want to kind of talk about mental toughness because you and I have talked about that a little bit as well offline. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me in the wellness minutes, you know, I'll
mhm.
admit that rip it. I'll admit that after a couple of, a couple of years of doing it, that a lot of the things that I think I've cycled through some stuff and
Mhm.
changed my opinion on different pieces of mental toughness. I think when I started off streaming and sharing my perspective on things, I had what I would now describe as being, and I really don't like wording it this way, so I'm trying to find a different way to put it in the moment.
Okay.
But for time's sake, like too soft,
Okay.
because I think that there is a way to be supportive that also there's a way to be supportive of someone's emotions and experience that also supports them in like holding themselves accountable and being honest with themselves.
Mhm.
And I think for me personally, like that's where I've really tried to build what I feel is an appropriate level of mental toughness for me, because I used to have this inner monologue,
Mhm.
and this was probably like early 20s, definitely. This inner monologue of like Vince Lombardi style, like you got to wake up, like if you want to be successful, you got to wake up every day and piss excellence, and you got to try your
Yes.
hardest every moment of the day, like you got to do this and that and all these other things. And it's just it's so exhausting to demand so much of yourself,
Yeah.
both physically and mentally and emotionally, and like as a partner and as a coworker and as someone who is just like trying to be like a friend in certain spaces. Like
Mhm.
I realized after a while that having the stance of just try harder, like doesn't work. Doesn't work, because some days you're not going to be able to try harder. Some days you have to forgive yourself when you
Yeah.
fall a little bit short. And it's not about it's not about the like falling victim to the bad days. It's about saying, okay, yesterday and today are not the same day. uh, there's a way that I can look at this that says I'm a human and I make mistakes, and I'm gonna try to be better, but I might not be perfect. And then there's another way of looking at this that's like David Goggins, I'm gonna run myself ragged and nothing's ever gonna be good enough.
Yeah.
And I think I've really leaned towards the former. So I don't know if that's kind of what you were looking for with mental toughness, but
It is,
or
and
if your experience is similar.
I think it's a process. I've gone from that. Like I didn't start running until I think it was well, what's 2009. So 15 years ago. So I was like, mid early 30s. It was literally, you know what, when it was, Penny was a newborn, so she's 15. So yeah, and that's actually how I got to go run. Is I would wake up with her at 4 a.m., change her, get her ready, give her to mom, so mom and she could, she could eat. I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run, but I would always internalize, and I still do to an extent. Like I see we've talked about it, you and I, and I've talked about it with Stream and on I think episode on the podcast. Like I am seeing a sports psychiatrist to work on that mental toughness and forgiving myself and letting myself like off the hook. Like there are days you need to be gentle with yourself. And somebody in chat, Nicole, just said, sometimes failure is an option and a learning experience. And you
Hmm.
you you list it with the arrows, the up arrows, and
Hmm.
that's something that I've had to learn to work on. Like I think of how I'm reacting to the foot stuff now. To a few years ago, I did a homebrew competition, and I was so mad and beat myself up. Like it ended with us leaving the brewery, going to family dinner, and me having Beck loser cranked in the car with Kelly and the kids, singing along, and just I was beating the crap on myself. And Kelly like was like, "Think about how this is being seen by your kids."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
And that's got to be just one of those really hard things to hear,
Yeah.
especially if you're in that space, right?
Yeah. But
Because
she
you
was
know it's
right.
true, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I think later years, like since Kelly got sick and I've gotten back into running, I've tried to really remember like this is a lesson of not giving up. You know, yeah, I fall a lot physically or I get injured or whatever, but like I think it's how you respond to that. Like it's like what is it the old Dwayne Wade thing? Fall 7 times, get up 8 or whatever it is, the weird marketing thing when he's
yeah,
playing.
yeah,
It's not like when you succeed that chasing your goals is the best. Like yes, there's some merit to that. You achieve your goals, that's awesome, but I think it's how you respond when you stumble or when you have a setback. That's where you see a person's character, and I've been trying to work on that. So like the mental toughness thing, what you said, like it's yeah, and I have to say that when you have given me like I want to say real talk in quotes, but like it's very refreshing the way you approach it. Like there was a time in Discord you like hit it under like a spoiler block, and then like there's been a couple times like when we talked about the drinking, you're like, can I talk to you about something that may not be comfortable? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, and like it's very refreshing. So thanks.
yeah.
But yeah,
No, I
so
mean, I think asking for permission with that kind of thing is really
mhm.
important, and especially in online spaces. I feel
Yeah,
like that's been a staple of really good relationships that I've built is,
yeah,
just making sure like, I mean, we even had something in stream today where I asked, like, someone asked a question about
hmm,
fasting, and I said, hey, I'm going to be kind of direct. If like,
yep,
if you want me to answer this question, like, do I have your permission to be a little direct, even if it comes off a bit like harsh? And they're like, yes. And at that point, it's okay. Well, now we can be honest about it, right? And
yeah.
um, but I think they left the stream after I said what I said, so we're still alert about that. Oh
Like
well,
yeah, but I
yeah,
think it's still though because you're right. A lot of times, I think you've touched on this in the past. Like when you talk about some of this stuff, there are always going to be. I think there's always someone. I always like to think of it. Even if one person asks and they leave chat, let's say, or they leave your stream, there could be someone else that wanted to ask that, but may not have been brave enough or in a place where
yeah,
they could have verbalized it. So I think it's still there's still a benefit to talk about that stuff on stream.
for sure,
So
for sure, yeah. Um,
awesome.
yeah, just on the mental toughness bit, I guess a final thing
Hmm.
is just um, I don't know. I'd really like that message of failure being something that we learn from,
Hmm.
and I know that I've failed as what I would consider to be like failing as a person. In a lot of situations, like that's so broad, and I could narrow it down, of course, but uh, if I had stayed in that space and considered that to be like a representation of who I was and what I was capable of,
Hmm.
like I probably wouldn't have the relationships and like the experiences that I have now. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit circular, but uh,
I
I know you
take
wanted to
it.
move on.
No. I like one last point. Like I don't know how much you and I have talked about this, but like mental toughness, like running when you do things like lift weights hard and like gonna make a slight assumption like doing the bodybuilding competition, but like running wise, you build mental toughness just doing it because you set goals
Mhm.
and you're running farther than you have ever before sometimes, or you're running faster. I think a lot of that can transfer to real life, and I really feel like mental toughness, like everything that has gone on in life, I think the last 15 years, I've been able to handle because of mental toughness that I've developed through exercising, whatever it may be, if it was just walking or going for runs or marathons
Mhm.
or a half. Like, I think that mental toughness can carry through to other parts of life and or you can shift it goes both ways. I think you can when you stop and think about it, the mental toughness in life and learning to change yourself and work on yourself, you can then carry that over to mental toughness into exercise and getting healthier. And I think some
Mhm.
people miss that sometimes that like or they think they're in two different buckets and you can't share them or mix them, I guess. So I
Mhm.
think that's something I think to remember too is that that hard thing you just got through. Like we have people in chat, someone in chat, is going through some hard stuff, and I'm like, I want I'm gonna gently remind them in a few months, like, you remember you did that, you got through that. That same energy, that same toughness is still there. So this
Mhm.
next challenge you can kind of face too. So I think that's one of my goals is I want to kind of pay that forward a little bit, and this is leading me into the last part of stream, but like, Kelly and I have been big on trying to pay it forward and do charity stuff. And like you last week, running the miles for Kelly last Thursday, it was Kelly's 5-year anniversary from a bone marrow transplant and fighting leukemia. And we tried to raise money for different charities to pay it forward to kind of help people. Like Kelly was a part of a med trial during treatment, and the data and her living her life and being on this medication will then help pay it forward to future leukemia patients, which is great. What I wanted to talk about, we call it now the cool down. We're going to give you kind of like, if you think of like that show Hot Ones, where you get like a couple minutes to kind of talk about all things Cool Runnings and highlight Joe. You'd mentioned it this morning, and I missed part of it. Actually, it might have been in Discord, but you talked about perhaps fundraising a little bit. But I wanted to kind of give you a time to kind of talk about what is important to you and what you have kind of coming up here, because I know we're kind of winding down on time.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I mean, I'll start with the fundraising thing. So as I mentioned, I'm part of a fundraising team on Twitch called Cosmic Hearts, and they've been extremely helpful for me in understanding what it means to fundraise on Twitch and like how to like bring people in and help them feel like they're really a part of it. So, kind of embedded in what I'll share after this, I want to make sure that I'm giving so much credit to that team and what they've taught me about social justice and like holding our team members to a really high standard of knowing what we're raising money for and all those things. But the thing that we're doing on Sunday. So in past years, I've done a Pride fundraiser each. The past 2 years, a Pride fundraiser in the month of June. And this year, just with the competition and with a lot of other things that have popped up in life, I found myself in this space of I didn't want to start the conversation because it constantly felt like it was too late. It felt like I was anything I would say would feel performative, or anything I would do would feel performative because of the fact that I wasn't there for that piece of the community. And I had a moment earlier this week where I really challenged that thought of I can either sit here in my shame and not raise money for a cause that I care about, or I can open up and just say like, hey, you know what, I kind of goofed up a little bit and we're gonna do something. So on Sunday, we're gonna be raising money for Trans Lifeline, which is an organization that helps support immediate or urgent mental health resources and emergency housing for trans individuals when they're in vulnerable spaces. So we're going to be just playing some games on Sunday, and there's details forthcoming on what all that is, but that's 2:30 Eastern time is the plan of when we're going to kick things off. We're going to try to raise $1,000, which I think is a really solid goal for us for a 1-day stream. And we'll see if we can do it. But
all right,
anything counts, anything helps, and I'm really trying to bring myself back into that space with fundraising of it doesn't have to be a huge banger to like matter, like anything that we do to bring a little allyship to a cause is valuable.
I love that. And so that you'll be live next on Sunday. We've talked about your normal stream schedule. Anything else you want to highlight? Anything else you want people to be aware of or know or
yeah, I mean, I think definitely if you are interested in just general fitness content, jump on Instagram, which you can find my Instagram and my Twitch page. I'm on YouTube also, and I think right now I'm resettling into a new normal, and my Twitch streams have kind of helped me do that, just staying on lifting. I am potentially gonna try to get some partner numbers going in the next couple of weeks. I think we're relatively close right now, and if things just continue to kind of go smoothly, if that happens, then I'll be going to TwitchCon potentially as a partner. That'd be pretty cool. But awesome. that's all big maybes. So I'm dreaming, but we'll see. And I don't want to put a lot of pressure on the community to do the whole push thing, because I want it to be organic. I want everyone to just be there and get what they need from the content. So
cool.
That's the bit.
I love it. And we'll share when I post this. We'll share your socials, and I'll make sure that we have your Twitch link. And if you keep the fundraising thing up a little bit, we'll share that as well. If you're cool with that, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think the only way I'm going to get into Boston is fundraising at this point. So I'm going to have to
Listen,
start.
my best shot time wise will be when I'm 90 and you hit that next age group up because that's like the slowest one. But like I think I am on the list for Boston for team and training for Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and it's a 5 year wait.
Excellent.
So like
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
5 years.
yeah.
Whew.
So like it's bucket list because it'd be great. And I don't know if you know her, but real quick, Imperial on Twitch, she's a partner. She's pretty awesome. She does sewing and arts and crafts, but she's also a runner like us. And she does
I
a lot
should
of the
connect.
yeah, she does the Disney races a lot. She's really, really, really awesome. But she actually she tried to do Boston. She got in fundraising for her dad in memory of her dad, and she had to drop because she's had a knee issue. And but really super nice, super inspiring, and yeah. So I'll give you her info offline here. But Joe, I wanted to say thank you for coming on. Like I think we touched on like half of this list. So what I basically am going to say is anytime you want to do this, like this has been fun, and I'm very honored and happy that you were willing to come on and be a part of the podcast stuff.
I'm honored that you asked, Dan, like truly. So,
It's sick.
yeah, this has been a great time. And thank you for being flexible with me and trying to
Oh,
get things scheduled.
100%. And we got to thank Grot because he's the one that poked me to ask you because he's the one that helped
Yeah.
kind of push this. So we'll have to
Thanks,
give
Grant.
Grot some love. Yeah. Well, folks, so I want to respect Joe's time and I want to get up and hang out with the family. So we're going to kind of wrap up the stream today. Thank you for watching the runaround. I love your faces. I will be back maybe tomorrow on Twitch. I'll edit this out later because this will be outro, whatever that's going to be. But I'll see you guys tomorrow morning ish. I think I'll update on stuff. But y'all have a great evening. So I'm going to go over here and end stream, and I'll host somebody here in a minute or two. But love your faces. Thanks for watching.